Hello and welcome. Today we're going to continue our sneak peek at some of the new features of the Aurelia 2 router. More specifically, we'll be looking into some of the new attributes of the new AU viewport and also take a quick stab at implementing some access checks. This is part 2 of a series. There will be a link to part 1 in the description. And that part will have information about setup and stuff like that, what toolkits to use. And it will also have a link to the repo where we left off. Okay, let's get started. Let's start with a small recap of where we left off last time. So we have this small app that has three menu items: welcome, about, and books. And the books list a set of books which we can choose. We can close it and open them again. And we left off having these as two separate viewports, meaning that if I navigate away from the list, I will still have the book available. So that's where we're at. And in code, this looks like this. So basically, we're this is the main my app. Sorry, the main view here, and we list the nav with its items, and we have the two viewport, the main one which contains the list, the books or the about, and the new viewport that has the details. So the left one and the right one, and a footer. Some CSS, and this TypeScript file does nothing. About and welcome are plain HTML components, while books is a list with both a view and a view model. And we get the book from a book service. That's very, very rudimentary. It's just a hack to get some data into it. And we juggle a book, and we can look at the details of the same book. And here's the view model for book details. So basically, in enter, we're scanning the parameters, and thanks to this definition here, the parameter is in the ID, and we get that service and some CSS. Okay, so let's get back to this. So initially, we had book details as a child viewport to the books listing here, so that when we navigate away, that's closed. That's we want to go back to that, I think, but first let's solve something a little easier. If we now start this up for the first time, it's blank. It's not loading any. It's not loading the welcome, which is what we want. Not loading any component whatsoever. There's an easy way for us to fix that. Change it. And that is by going into, for each viewport, there's an option to provide a default component to be loaded. And this component will be loaded within the navigation if nothing else is specified for this specific viewport. So in order to make sure that welcome is loaded when nothing is specified in the start, I'll just add that as default. And this means that if I remove this, welcome is automatically loaded. Just to prove this, I'll just change this to about, and if I remove this, and now it's loading the about. Okay, so that's easy peasy. There are of course other ways to assure this. configure the router, what to use when using when nothing is specified. This will probably suffice for. I need to save this. Yes, this would probably be good enough for many cases. Okay. So that's one thing. There was a question on how to handle missing components. If for example someone is to navigate to this, now we're getting an error here. So what we want to do is have a way to catch any links that aren't leading to proper to existing components. There's more than one way to do this. Again, it's possible to configure this with a hook. We'll be looking at hooks a bit later, navigation hooks. But there's there's even an easier way to do this, and that is by specifying a fallback for this. I could do this. I could actually, let's do that. I could just do fallback about, and this means that this is now loading welcome 3. If I'm grabbing something that doesn't exist, it's loading my fallback, which in my case is about. You can also see that it's providing the welcome 3 here as a parameter to that fallback. That means that I can do, let's create a new file. Ouch. Couldn't find ID. There we go. We change that to missing. We also need to make sure that we're importing it. Okay, and now doing, there you go, and let's do 4. Let's not do that. 4. We can see that it's not providing the ID, but the ID is there. So how do we get the ID into this parameter here? Well, we'll need to create a view model for this. And basically what we want to do is do the same thing that's done here to a degree. So let's just do, because we can specify, we learned this last time, that we can specify parameters and get the name, get those names. So now I'll just do, need to add this. We don't need that. And instead do this, just to get it into a property of the view model that we can use. And don't need this. There you go. So now basically we're using enter to get the parameter and store it in. Okay, let's do instead. Let's do that. And that would then be, let's see if this works. No. Oh, right. So what I'm doing here is that I'm importing the HTML component, and that means it's ignoring the view model here. The convention isn't loading the view model. So I need to make sure that I'm using that one. And now if I do Couldn't find welcome 6. Okay, let's just do that so that it's somewhat clearer. There you go. So that's one way to deal with it. And here you could, of course, do redirect or whatever you want to and stuff like that. A nifty feature here is that we can use fallback to get even less code. So I could specify fallback for every viewport. So if I'm specifying this as fallback, that means that fallback has this behavior that by default it's submitting in the name of the actual component. The missing component isn't named, but instead it's just using the ID that's sent in, and that means that it gives us an easy way to get rid of the book details here if we want to. It's just listing this as 5. Now these are siblings, which is why we're seeing the books component and well, this is the book details that is now a fallback. So these are siblings, but we can, if we don't want them to be siblings, which is more likely, I'd say, go into books and add it here. And we're already importing the details, so that should be fine. Yeah, that's to be expected. I'll explain why in a bit. Right. So now the link is, where is the link? The link, as you might remember, is directing the viewport one scope step up. That means that now, since we've removed that, we only got the main viewport here. So that's now the book details is loaded in this one. Now, since it's this is the viewport that we want to target, we need to just remove the scope traversal here. And now we should be good. And now, as a result here, we move this away. Since this is now a child view, we can close it. That's working perfectly fine. But if we also navigate away from books, we can see that it's falling around. And we also now end up with, for those who think the URL is important, this is in one of the ways that you could get a URL that's more familiar to you and or your customers. Okay, so this also, since we have a fallback here, does this mean that I'll show you an issue first. If I do this, we're going to get an error. Also, if I do that, gives me an error. It should. And when I'm here, since we have book details as fallback, we should be able to actually just remove this and just launch the actual ID. And this doesn't work. And that's the equivalent of me changing it manually here, creating a deep link. And the reason for this is that we've specified that this viewport the book details viewport, is used by the book details component. That means that this component is the only component that can be loaded into the viewport. However, we're now not specifying the component any longer. So this link without a component, as well as the deep link that didn't work when I manipulated, doesn't find this viewport, which is why it's incapable of resolving our viewports. You can see that this is the instruction that's remaining as well. There, no viewport. So if I remove this, it should be good. Yeah. And now, as you can see, the links are just the actual IDs here. And I can do 5. And so on. But let's bring that back, but still remove this so that we're back in business with this. For clarity, this makes more sense to have links, but I can now, should be able to load the first one, yes. So that's a quick preview of some of the new properties, attributes on the viewport, default, as well as fallback. New ways of solving use cases. Okay, so let's take a look at something a bit more. Let's create a bigger example here. Let's take a look at checking access. So I'm not going to implement full access system here and stuff like that. I'm just going to mock something. Let's create then a class that handles an auth class that basically has a user, which is like that, and then it has login, and if you log out, we're clearing this. So if we're logged in, it's depending on whether we got a user or not. Right. So that's this is now a very basic authentication class here, and this should of course in real life check to other resources or whatever implementation you have. But let's just keep this part simple. Let's we could move that one out there. And let's create a new one, a new file as well. Let's create login. And this basically says, this is our login file. We're going to use when we log in, and we'll just we'll just do it as simple as possible. We'll just add a text field that you can enter and then a button that logs you in. Yeah. And we'll need the TypeScript file for this as well. So the view model. We need to do something. Yes, we need to inject the. Now we're going to inject this auth class. Not doing anything with it for now. And then we're going to have and we're also so we're binding the input to the user here as a string, and login is just passing that to, and that's it, and that will set it as a user. But we need to do this. Let's do a console log here. Logged in user. We know that it's, and this would of course then be there you go. And we need a way to display this. That would make sense. Let's close this one off, and we don't need that either. Let's go into the view here and just add login, and that means we need login here as well, so that we can load it. And let's see where we're at. Oh, this is exciting. Taking some time to compile. Oh, we made it. Yay. So let's, now we have login, user, logged in. Okay. So that's not too bad. And let's then do let's add some styling. Trying to avoid to work on styling here, but let's add something at least so that it differs a bit from. Let's do this. This is a flex thingy. So we could do this. Yes, no. Right. So we end up here. And of course we should not, now if I log in, still remains there. So we should only show this if this makes sense. If we're not, let's just check if we don't have a user in auth. Okay, so now we've opened this up, right? We're linking into this, so we're done with that one. I think we're done with this one as well. Yeah. Let's keep that for a bit. But what we want to do now is we want to make that auth available by injecting it. Compiling. Compiled. Logging in and it disappears. So that's good. Also, let's let's do a notification of spam. No, actually, let's make it an anchor as well. If we have a user, let's make a profile picture. Call this user. And log in and ASDF. There you go. And also make this behave the same. Log in. Boom. Okay, so out. Couldn't find profile. That's good. That's to be expected. So now we need to create the profile. I think that is very similar to this one, actually. Yeah. Let's copy login here to profile. Okay, I could have skipped that one, but auth user. And then do have the option to log out. And also then copying login. This is probably makes more sense. Profile. So we don't need this. Okay, so let's see where we're at. So I'm not, there, I'm not logged in. I log in. I'm logged in. Right, this is what you need to remember, that since this now is loading profile, I need to import profile as well. If I'd made these global components, I'd be specifying them in probably in main. Where's main? I'd probably be registering them here together with after my app like this and importing them. Then I wouldn't have to specify them in here. And some of this might make sense to make publicly available. Could be. But I'm not doing that now. Making a note. So let's see if this now works better. We're logged in and logged out, and we're back to login. Okay, so this is just basically Backbone. We haven't done anything yet then, other than adding the GUI for it. Okay, so let's see if we can. Currently, we're not using this, the login, the access, the authorization. There's no checks or anything. So let's say we want to. Oh, this is a bit. This is a bit awkward as well. Whenever I log in, let's log out. So if I log in, I remain on this page, which doesn't really feel that good. If this was an external service to handle the user, stuff like that, this would solve itself probably. But let's let's have this one. Once we've logged in or logged out, let's go to the welcome page. And what we want to do is basically this. This is the syntax for using the router to navigate. It's the same goto, and it more or less works the same as the href, but we also need to inject the router. And I'm using a slightly different syntax here. Parameter decorator, possibly. And I'm also using an interface. The router exports an interface to itself, like that. And I need to make it private in order for it to become a property on the class. And I can now, yeah, okay, let's just check first, see that this behaves the way I expect it to, and log in. There you go. I log in. I'm logged in. I'm back at the welcome page. Okay, so now if I want to add the same functionality to log out, so I'm just going to the profile page actually, which is the log out. So I'm just going to copy paste this, add it there. No. Sorry. There you go. So I'm at the about. I log in. Get redirected to welcome. I go to the profile page. I log out, and I'm back at the welcome page. Okay. That's a lovely little UX there. Do we need anything more here? Let's see. Okay, so now let's take a look at actually adding a hook here that validates, make sure that we do have access to this. And I can do this in, let's see, borrow this one. So to do this, I'm going to use, I can do this in any component, basically. I'm going to do it in my app. And I'm going to use one of the hooks, the Aurelia hooks. After bound, this could be anywhere, basically. And I need the router for this. So I'm going to, again, copy paste this so that I'm also injecting the router, and need to import it. This router, add hook, hooks. I'll just show you. So hooks are a way to intercept. Let's do this instructions. Are a way to intercept the navigation process at different stages. They're the equivalent of the pipelines, but slightly different. And there's some more of them, some that didn't exist in the version 1 router. So basically, there are several of them. The default hook is called BeforeNavigate, and it's called before navigation, and it receives the instructions that are about to be navigated to. So I can now log this navigation, and we should see this. And we don't. Let's see. Oh, yeah, it's called after bind. There you go. So we can see that. Let's start from the beginning here. See that we're getting this list contains a list of a set of viewport instructions that specify component and viewport, stuff like that, where we're going. And the reason it's a list is that it's fully possible to have more than one instruction, a navigation instruction in a link or a deep link or whatever. So if I'm doing this and do boom, we see that it's struggling through this. Get each and every one here. The books one, and also that's book details with the component. Okay, so what can we do with this? Well, you notice I did a return true there. If I do return false, the navigation is cancelled. So now no navigations work. It's so this is a good start, but I want to let's do this. If this auth check access this now efficiently says that if we do have this user ID set, then the navigation should be allowed. If not, it shouldn't. So this seems like a very good start, isn't it? Problem here is I'm not seeing anything, and my login navigation is also cancelled. You could, of course, solve this in many ways and check the instructions and stuff like that, and only check access if the component is right. But this is such a common scenario, so the add hooks takes an configuration parameter and options parameters, and this is among other things where we specify sorry, it's navigation hooks before navigation, I think. Small even. There you go. Might be even. Is it hooks or is it hook? Let's try hooks. This is where you specify. I didn't like that, so maybe it's hook. I'll get back to you on the exact name here. So this is basically, this is where you specify the type. Maybe I might have liked this. No. So this is where you specify the type. If you want to do anything else than before navigation, which is default, but you can also specify include or exclude. And it does exactly what it sounds. With exclude or include, it's the same principles. You can specify a list of components that are excluded from this hook. So if I'm excluding welcome you can now see that the welcome navigation is working. Login still isn't, but I could also, if I just exclude login, we're good to go. Books and about is blocked. We might want to allow about, perhaps, as well, so that we're only restricting access to books. Those are now working. And this means that if I'm now logging in here, ta-da, books is working fine. And if I log out, it's not. And of course you could do, I could do a redirect here. Let's say I want to, and instead of just having nothing happening, I want to redirect to the login page. So this router create, I do this, this hook, the BeforeNavigation hook, can return a Boolean whether to proceed with navigation or not. But it can also return a set of viewport instructions. And that's, hold on, let's see if we've got, so it takes a list of viewport instructions in, and whatever, if a list of viewport instructions is returned, that's navigation will proceed according to that one. When I'm returning something here, I need to provide a component name as well as a viewport. The viewport name is enough. I need an actual viewport for now. That's the API. This might change, but for now I need to viewport. One easy way to do this is that I'm getting a component, and this is actually is going to be nice for us. For example, I'm getting the viewport that's supposed to show this component as the first in the first instruction here. So what I can do is I use a helper method that creates a viewport instruction, and this takes component, it takes viewport, which could be a name or an actual viewport, also takes parameters, which we're not going to use now. No, we just need this. So what we're going to do here is we're going to check instructions 0 viewport. So this says create a new viewport instruction to use instead that puts, not welcome because that's stupid, but put login in the viewport that we were targeting. Ooh, got an error here. Right. And this, of course, needs to be a list. Well, not of course, but it does need to be a list. A list in and a list out. So this is actually, to be clear, viewport instruction. That's what we're dealing with. See if that works better. We're compiled. We're not logged in, and when I try to access books here, I'm forwarded to the login page. Log in and forwarded back to the welcome page. Now I am logged in. Let's see if there's one. That seems reasonable. Let's think of it like this, that whenever I want to log in here, I'm now logged out. I would like to be redirected to the books page, the destination where I was going, instead of going to the welcome page always. If there is one. So what I could do then is in auth here, let's create redirect. instruction. There you go. Include it. Do I want it? No, let's. There are better. Let's do this. So if then I'm just going to this auth redirect. Let's call it something a bit more clear. Redirect instructions. And set that to instructions. So now we're saving that within this. And that means that, and this is now redirected to the login page, which is good. So let's go into login. And that. Now this. If we have instructions, we can even do. That should be equals that or welcome. Because goto can process either a string or a set of viewport instructions. Basically, we're saying here that if we have redirect instructions, then we're going to go to them. If not, let's go to welcome. We also want to clear redirect instructions here, just to make sure that we're not leaving. So it's one thing only. Let's see if this works. Compiled, yay! And book took us to login, and we're to books. Ta-da! And now if I log out, if I'm here, if I'm not, oh, that was interesting. Why did that happen? Right, that's to be expected. We'll get to that. But if I do this, that of course works. Oh, wait. Yeah. So this is, again, maybe I want to do something with this. Yeah. There you go. Let's see if this works. Again, and let's log out. And now log in. And we're to welcome. Okay. So that's somewhat nice. This also has the added, how do we show this? Okay, so let's, do we need that? No, we don't need that. Oh, we don't need that. Okay, so let's add, let's fake a timeout thing here. Private timeout. I'm being lazy. Sorry. Don't do this at home, kids. Timeout. Let's add create timeout. This is just, of course, it would never work like this, but you know, for example, let's just do this user 0. Just clearing this. That's ugly. There has to be some standards at least, I guess. And let's call this 10 seconds. Yeah, that works. So when we log in, storing this because I know I'm going to use it again. That's why I'm storing the timeout. Now we're going to log in, navigate here. Let's not do anything. See what happens when 10 seconds pass. Maybe nothing. There you go. So now I'm no longer logged in. And if I try to switch to a different book here, I get the login in the viewport that I was going to. I log in again, and it continues within that viewport, and everything around it is untouched. So if this, imagine that this is everything around it is a major view where you've scrolled and you've entered date and stuff like that. And you could, when you're doing the login, the redirect, you don't do to the viewport that I'm adding, but you have a specific viewport that addresses the login window, and that pops up and then disappears when you're logged in. It means that you can leave the entire state behind just by specifying a different viewport in your redirect instruction in here. Yes, I would basically just do, I'm going to do this, but I would do this router find viewport. This isn't implemented yet, but it's coming very soon. And just do login viewport, which is specific viewport that's only used for this. But let's not do these because I kind of like this as well. Gives us bang for the buck easily. Let's also now let's shorten this time. 5 seconds. And just for the fun of it. Oh, we need to address this. So we're getting an error here, and this is happening because the navigation here doesn't contain any viewport. It's the empty navigation. So we need to, and it's trying to where is it? Here. It's trying to get instruction 0 viewport. We don't have one. So what we need to do is, I would probably say that if we don't have any instructions, it's always fine, because then we're going to page default. So, the default for the viewport. This might not be true in specific cases if you're doing a well, you might want to do something better than that, but this should, for our cases, this should work fine. Most cases it should be okay. So now we're getting logged out after 5 seconds, and we're here, and I need to log in again. I'm logged in, and we can continue running. Just to get a somewhat more realistic example, let's finish this out. Well, I say realistic, but with this auth, it's so far from realistic, so it's a bit ridiculous. But still, let's also have private remove timeout, so that we can remove it if this timeout clear interval. No, clear timeout. There we go. This timeout and this timeout. There you go. And let's start by doing so. If we're creating a timeout, we're also removing it, and this means that if we're logging out, we're also removing the timeout. What's so interesting about this? Nothing yet. We've just created a timeout and make sure that we're removing it here. But what we can do is in check access, that's called create timeout. This means that every time I check access, every time I navigate, basically. So this is, of course, poor solution because you probably want to validate access in other occasions than just navigation. But for now, wherever I navigate, a new timeout is created. So the old one, if there is one, is removed, and we get a new one that gives us 5 seconds extra to move around. And it's removed whenever I log out. So let's also just remove these, by the way, because they're not bringing much to the table here. So let's see what happens if we do login, books. I'm not doing anything. 4, 5. So we're logged out. Log in again. Try and stay active for a bit. See if this works. And once I stop moving around, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There you go. And now we need to log in. Okay. I think that's about it. I think so. I think we'll stop there and save and continue another day. If you have requests and or questions, opinions, thoughts, reflections, whatever, feel free to add a comment or check out the repo or either here in the video or in the repo that I'll be uploading and adding a link to in the description. Okay, thank you for sticking around. Bye-bye.